We're live. And would you believe it? We end up getting a blackout or at least electricity at our house for some of the places where we plug in. Ends up completely stuffing up right before I actually go to do the carousel video. And one of the things I like to do in my live streams, sorry, not in my live streams, when I'm doing videos, is I really like to make the part where I'm planning as close as possible to the part where I film the video because it means everything is fresh in my mind. And it's been a couple of days now that I've been working on this carousel planning phase, which is very unusual. So hopefully everything's going to pull together nicely. But that's enough silly excuses for now. Let's just get it done. So yeah, check out quasarcast.com/register if you're interested in videos like these. Um, and I'd love to share more of my videos with you. So that's a great place to check that out. Moving that away though, by the way, send some comments through if you have any questions and I'd love to answer them. But for the most part, I'm going to be streaming in this video. So not streaming, sorry, recording. So let's dive right in and get this show on the road. So the first thing I do when I do a recording is I get unclutter running. And unclutter basically allows my mouse to automatically hide. So notice that if I leave my mouse here, it's not going to hide. Whereas if I say unclutter, this is a Linux thing. I think you can get it on Mac as well. And then I can say if it's idle for 0.4 seconds, I want you to hide it. So if I run that now, press enter, it's automatically going to hide. And that'll happen in all scenarios. The cool thing about unclutter is even that if I've got a Chrome window, so let me just drag one over here, it's still going to hide after 0.4 seconds. Very, very handy for when you're doing recording videos because it means that your mouse doesn't, what was I going to say? It means that you can easily cut videos without your mouse darting to different parts of the screen. So I love unclutter, use it all the time. It's fantastic. All right, so let's throw that over there. Next, I'm going to run that command again, but this time say and at the end so that it runs in the background. Great, it's working. Cool. Now we'll CD into Carousel, open that in Visual Studio Code, and then we'll be ready to go. All right, so let me just close this down. The code over here. And then we'll get our dev server up, Quasar dev. Then once that environment is running, think I'm just about ready to start recording. Oh, of course, I need OBS as well. Now, I'm hoping that this isn't going to slow things down, the fact that I'm live streaming and I'm going to try and record something with OBS. So let's just do a quick test here to see if it runs okay. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Hello, super excited, blah, 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 blah. Yep, that's the kind of stuff I do for my testing. All right, let's take a look at that. Okay, so I'm gonna have to move this a little bit further away from my mouth because it is picking up a couple of sort of airy sounds. And one thing I'll do is I'll breathe out of my nose for a little bit to see if it gets picked up here. Okay, it does a little bit, but that's not too bad. There we go. Just breathed out of my nose and it didn't get picked up at all in the microphone down here. So that's what I'm looking for. That's where that's how I try and position my mic. And I know this mic isn't going to give me the best sound, but the most important thing to me is freedom. I want to be able to move my body around when I'm recording these videos. And I hate just having a static mic pointing at my face and I have to sort of do stuff like this. I use my hands a lot. I kind of like get moving a lot when I'm speaking. And I feel like that emotion really comes out when I'm recording. So that's kind of important to me when I'm streaming. I'm not streaming, sorry, when I'm doing recording videos. All right, so I'm just going to jump you over to the screen on its own, and I'm probably ready to start recording. Let me just pull up my notes. I had to restart my computer because of the blackout, so let's just go ahead and pull up those notes. Where are they? Courses, components. I'll bring this over here so you can see what I'm doing. Let's jump over to the carousel. There's my notes. Open that up with Typora. A second to load. I really hope my computer's going to handle this all right. If it doesn't, that's all right. It's one recording gone wrong. Not a tragedy. Cool. All right, I'm just about ready to go. So now you'll get to see what it's like when I record a video for QuasarCast. We're going to get rid of all of that. I want to bring us back to a very basic example. So we're ready to get started. I might as well automatically just add that in as well. Cool, take out ref. And by default, I believe Quasar gives us flex and flex dash center. So now we've got a default setup, and I'm ready to start recording. Yep. Let's just do a quick test. Test. Yep, that's good to go. Right, I'm a bit nervous. I've never done a live stream and a recording at the same time, so we'll just see how this goes. Let me just check the mouse hiding. Yep, just a few things I test because it's really annoying when you have to sort of stop and start things. All right, so how I'm going to start this off. Something about the carousel. I don't like to sort of screw around too much at the start. Let's go over the Q carousel component, and I've got a lot to go on. Let's go over the Q carousel component, and I've got a lot to show you in this video. So let's. I don't like that start either. And go. All right, let's dive right into the Q carousel component. I really think you're going to love this one. First, I'm going to add padding up here because it's going to work better for this example rather than having something centered on the screen. Next, let's say Q-card. I want to put it inside of a card so it's easier for you to see. Q-carousel. And we want to model some data here so that we know what slide we are currently on in the carousel, because a carousel component is going to have multiple slides. We'll say v-model, and how about we call this current slide? Cool. Now we need to add that data down here. So we'll create a reference to it by yanking ref out of view. And then we'll say const current slide is equal to a reference. And we'll set it to 1 by default. Right, let's go ahead and return that. Current slide. Oh, I put that inside of the return. All right, I'm going to do this one from the start. I think live streaming and doing this at the same time is making me nervous. That's all right. I want to get used to this, though, so I can share more of my journey with all of you. Let's take a look at the carousel component. I think you're really going to love this one. First, I'll get rid of the classes on the page that we get by default and put padding in here. Rather than having stuff centered, this is just going to work a little bit nicer for some of our examples. Now we're going to say Q card because I want our carousel to be inside of a card just so it's easier to see. And then Q dash carousel, and then we'll model some data here. V dash model is equal to current slide. All right, now let's make a reference. We'll pull ref out of view. And then within the setup, I'll say const current slide is equal to a reference, and we'll set it to slide 1 to begin with. And I'll show you what that means in a second. Then we want to return that here so that it's available within our template. And then once you have your carousel, you actually have to add some slides in as well. So we'll say Q dash carousel dash slide. This is another component we use in tandem with Q carousel. Now we give this a name, and I'll set that equal to 1. So basically, since carousel slide is going to be equal to 1, this first slide is what we will see to begin with. And we'll just put 1 in there just to check that it's all working. So we'll save that, and there we go. We've got our very first slide showing up. Doesn't look like much yet, but wait till I dig into more and you'll see some really cool stuff we can do. Okay, so notice that I'm pausing now. Once I've sort of done a thought and I've waited for my mouse to disappear, often I'll pause whilst I'm doing one of these recordings. It sort of helps me to clarify my thoughts and get ready for the next part. And so I'm sort of looking at my notes right now, thinking, all right, let's get ready for this next sort of sprint, I guess you'd call it. Okay. Next, we want to be able to toggle between all of our slides. So in order to show that, I'm just going to create a few more copies of these slides. This one will be 2, and we'll say 2 inside there. This one will be 3, and I'll say 3 inside there. Cool. Now at the bottom of the card here, I'm going to add a Q-card-section. Just another section for the bottom of this card here. And we're going to add some buttons that we can click to toggle us between these different slides. So we'll do a Q dash button dash toggle. This is a really cool component that will allow us to do just that very easily. V dash model, this will also model the current slide, and then we need to actually pass it through some options. So I'll just make that an empty array to begin with. Let my formatter do some magic, and now let's throw some options in there. We need to have here a label, and we need to have a value. So the label of the first one will be 1, or maybe even the number 1 will do. And then the value of that is going to equal 1. So let's save it. And there we go. When I click on 1, it's going to take me to slide 1. And let's do all of the other options, 2 and 3, 2, 3, 2, and 3. Save that. And there we go. Now we can toggle between these different slides. How cool is that? Pretty simple to begin with, though. We're going to dig a little bit further. But first, let's center this off. Class is equal to text dash center. Nice. Now, before we get too deep into this, I want to make it so it's easier for us to model different slides. I'll show you how we'll do that. We'll come down here and we'll create a variable. And this does not have to be a reactive variable. We're not going to use ref because our slides, at least in this example, is not going to be reactive. That's an important thing to know. You don't have to use ref if you don't need to, if your variable isn't going to be reactive. So let's say slides here and start throwing some in there. The first one, we'll say the name is equal to 1. The title is equal to 1. And then the description, oh, make sure I spelled that properly. The description will be equal to, and I'm just going to say, if I go Control-Shift-P Faker, I have this really cool Faker extension, which allows me to very quickly basically smash out some dummy data. We'll say lorem, and we're going to do a paragraph worth of lorem text. So let's save that. And then I'm going to expose slides here and do a few more of them. So that's 1, and then we'll do 2, and then we'll do 3. So the name will be 2, the title will be 2, this one will be 3, and the title will be 3 with a capital. All right, so now let's go ahead and model that data up here. So I'll get rid of all of these slides. And for the carousel slide, we'll say V-4 slide in slides. And then we'll set the key equal to the name because we know that the name's going to be unique. And we'll also set the name of this slide equal to the name in our data. So let's save that and see if it works. Oh, that's got to be slide.name. Save that. What have I done wrong here? Name is 3. That looks good to me. So we might have to refresh the page here as well. That's not working either. Oh, okay, I see the problem now. Now, the next thing we need to do is actually pull through the title here. So we can come through and say slide.title, and we probably want the slide description as well. So let's say slide.description. Save that. And there we go. We got the title and the description. I'm going to do a bit of formatting here. Control-Shift-Enter, put that inside of a div. The title can be inside of a Control-Shift-Enter, H3. And then once again, Control-Shift-Enter, and we'll put the description inside of its own div. Save it. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Next, I'm going to say class is equal to, what classes will I add in here? We probably want that to be a col. Damn it, I thought I prepared this. I probably did it yesterday, though. And I probably want all of those. Yeah. Yeah. The last place I finished off was here. Oh, and instead of putting the class there, I actually want to do it up here. We'll say class is equal to flex, flex center, really easy way to center things in Quasar. And then we'll also say text dash center to center our text. And there we go. Now we can easily switch between these different slides and we've got some more data to play around with. So let's have some fun. Scrolling up, let's go to the carousel component and add in here animated. Save it. And now when I switch between the different slides, we're getting a little bit of a fade. It's kind of hard to see, but that is fading there. It might even be a better example if I come in here and change this description to something else. So let's say faker. And how about we say sentences and save that just so that they've got different data in there. Cool. What else can we do? We can change that animation. So if I come in here and say transition next and then transition previous, I could say, for example, for the next transition, slide dash left. And for previous, slide dash right. Now, if I jump over here, we've got a different transition. So that's pretty cool. Oh, looks like I might have to refresh the page to get that other slide transition working. Oh, it's because I said PREF instead of previous. And there we go. That's working. What else can we do? We can also add navigation. So at the moment, often I'll stammer. And when I stammer like that, I just go back and try it again. We can also have it add the navigation for us. So if I come down here, we've been modeling the navigation ourselves. But if I get rid of that, now we've got no way to change the current slide that we're on. However, QCarousel gives us navigation. So let's save that. And this has actually worked, but we can't see the controls because they're invisible there. That's all right. We can add in here control dash color is equal to, and let's set that to something like blue. And there we go. Now we got some navigation. Pretty straightforward. We can also say navigation dash icon. So let's just change it to person, for example. And then that's going to change the icon here. I might just refresh the page to see if that works. Oh, I didn't. All right, it's because I spelled that wrong. We also have navigation dash icon. And we can set that equal to something like person or whatever you have in your icon library. And there we go, it changes. But we'll bring that back and change this to navigation active icon and maybe a check for that. There we go. So now when it's active, it's got a little check mark there. What else can we do? We can add arrows. If I say arrows here, we get these right and left arrows. So that's super handy. But another thing you can even do here is change those icons. So if I come in and I say previous dash icon, we can set that to arrow underscore back, for example. And then we could say next icon is arrow forward. Save that. And there we go. It's a slightly different icon. You can change that to anything that you like. What else can we do? It's probably worth pointing out that we can play around with the classes. So let's say class is equal to background indigo 7, something like that. Straight away gives us a different background. And now we might want something like white text. So let's say text dash white. And then we might make the navigation white as well. So navigation is control color. We'll change that to white. Cool. I reckon that looks nice. All right, what else can we do? We can also make it swipeable. So by default, if I try and click drag this to the right or left, which is particularly useful on a mobile device, nothing happens. But if I add swipeable, now when I try and drag it, it works. Really handy for mobile. We can also basically we can also make the navigation vertical. So this is horizontal navigation. If we say here vertical, that's going to put the navigation on the other side and it's going to put those arrows on the bottom and the top. Pretty cool. All right, we'll get rid of that though. And maybe a few other things just to simplify this a little bit. How about those ones? And we will move on. Now, one thing to note is that these icons here, these are buttons. This is navigation buttons. Same with this one up here. And we can change the style of those buttons very easily by saying Control Dash Type. And by default, it's flat. So we can change it to something like regular, save it, and then we get a regular button, which has that sort of shadow, which is dropping on the background there. And I'll change the control color to better show. And I'll change the control color to better show this. Let's say gray dash 8. And there we go. That gives you a better example of what this looks like. So that's regular. What else have we got? All of the button stuff. So unelevated, save that. And then it's basically just like a flat button with the colored background. We've got stuff like outline and push. All of those are going to work. And push is particularly nice, especially if you have like a game related website. I really like that. Anyway, let's move this out and say navigation position. So what we can do is change the position of this navigation. Let's put it on the top and that works. We can put it on the right and that works. And we might change this color back to white again so it's a little bit easier to see. Just notice that if you put it on the right, you might have to want to change. Just notice that if you put it on the right, you might have to change a bit of styling here because now the navigation is kind of clashing with the right arrow. You can see that they're kind of overlapping there. So that's one thing to notice. What else can we do? Well, let's just change this back to bottom. Another thing we can do is actually tap in to this navigation here and customize it however we like using a slot. I'll show you what I mean. Let's come up here and we'll say template, and then we'll give this a slot. And the slot for that is going to be navigation dash icon. And we're basically going to pull out whether or not it's active, the props for it, button props, and on click. So this is the event. If it gets triggered, it's going to basically move it to whatever slide corresponds with what navigation icon has been clicked. All right, so let's basically map this back on. Q dash button. We'll close that off. First of all, I want the button props on there. So let's say v dash bind is equal to button props. Save it. And there we go. It looks like nothing has changed. And that's a beginning. What else can we do? We can say the icon is equal to, and what I'm going to do here is use active to see what icon we should be using. So we can say if it is active, then how about we use the person icon to begin with? Otherwise, I want you to give me a circle icon. Save that, refresh the page, and let's see if that's going to work. Oh, it's telling us that we need to use on click. So let's come down here and say at click is going to equal on click. So basically, we're just mapping these to our button, and this basically gives us that extra control. So let's save it now. And there we go. It works. If you wanted to change the size, you could say the size of that button is large. Anything you like. You now have total control over how your navigation icons look. Really, really cool. I might change that back to a check. I think it looks a lot better. Yeah, cool. All right, what else can we do? No, I always say, what else can we do? Let's change that. All right, so scrolling up, if I come down here, I can also add in padding. And padding just gives us a little bit of extra padding on this inner area here. So that might be nice if you want your content to just fit a little bit more pleasantly for the user. And the next thing I want to show you is really, really cool. Check this out. Carousel Slide actually has an image option. So you can say image dash source and then give it an image. So what we're going to do is say slide dot image source. Oh, change that to a C. And now if I come down here, let's add an image source to all of these. And I'm going to use Lorem Pixum, which is a website I really like, which I believe is just dot dot slash slash pixum dot photo slash 800 by 600. And I want all of these images to be different. So I'm just going to change those dimensions a little bit, maybe like 900 by 700. And then let's do one more. And we'll make this one 1000 by 900. Let's try that and see if it works. Save it. How cool is that? And now we can go next like this. And you can see that it took those images a little bit of time to load. So what we might actually do is get rid of the text in this as well. So I'll just comment that out for now, save it, and I might just do a quick page refresh. And there we go. This is an example of a classic carousel component where you can basically switch between the two. And then you might want to change that background image as well to whatever you like. Maybe it could even be like a spinner. I don't know. You can choose whatever you like there. Well, what else can we do? And another thing we can do is we can actually come up here and say thumbnails. Save that. And one thing to point out is that thumbnails is not going to work if you have navigation. So we're going to get rid of navigation and all of the navigation related stuff. Because thumbnails is basically replacing navigation with thumbnails of those images. How awesome is that? It's usually annoying to build these kind of components, but it is an absolute cinch using Quasar. Really, really cool. Another thing that you might want to do is put videos in there. So I'm going to go to youtube.com and just yank out a few videos. What do we got here? Oh, a lot of COVID related stuff. Okay, this one looks cool. This guy looks super buff. Let's grab him, copy this. And now let's go ahead and use it. We might have to get rid of thumbnails here. And then I'm going to scroll down to the carousel slide and we'll put a div in there for our video. In fact, we might even be able to do a q-video directly. And then if we put a class on this equal to absolute full, that's a quick way to basically take the video and make sure it takes up the entire area within the carousel. In fact, I'll get rid of that to show you what it looks like by default. And then of course we'll need the source. So I'm just going to hard code that video URL for now. Oh, and I believe we need to get rid of this watch part here and change that to embed. Yeah, it needs to be embed slash the ID of the video. And it works. And look at that. We can even have an image and the video. So maybe you could have a cover image whilst the video is setting up. I don't know. There's probably some opportunities there. But another thing that we can do now, like I mentioned, is say class is equal to absolute full. Super helpful class. It means that that video now takes up the entire slide. How cool is that? Those are some muscly looking quads. All right, what else can we do? Well, I might bring us back to our image example by getting rid of that, save it. Another thing we can do is say infinite. Now, the cool thing about infinite is it means that when we reach the end, it's just going to go through to the other side. And it's not infinite on the carousel slide. We actually want infinite to be up here on the carousel. So let's save that. And now when I press next, next, I can just keep pressing next all day long and it's going to loop. Pretty cool. And infinite is particularly useful if you're using autoplay. And with autoplay, you get to say how many milliseconds to wait before moving on to the next slide. So let's say 4,000, which means 1 second, 4,000 milliseconds. I'll refresh the page here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Really cool that we can set that up as well. I'll get rid of it though because it's super annoying watching this switch from side to side when you're doing a video. All right, so a couple more things that I want to show you is all right, so a couple more things I want to show you. The Q carousel control. So let's get rid of this for now, just to simplify things. And we'll say template, and then I'll throw in here control. So this is a template for the control, and we can put inside of there anything we like. So we can say control, and then inside of template, bugger. So let's get rid of this to simplify things. And if I say template, I can now say hashtag control, and we want to have a Q dash carousel dash control. Nice. And we can put whatever we want in here, whatever we want. And then we can also start doing some other stuff like positioning it. But I'll just save it for now just to show you that works. And there we go. It pops up there. So a good example of this would be a button that, for example, makes it full screen. Label is equal to full screen. Save that. And currently it doesn't do anything, but we'll implement full screen in a moment. We'll set the color to white so that the background is filled in. And how about we set the text dash color equal to gray dash 8. All right, so what can we do with the carousel control? Well, we can say, for example, text dash center to center our control. Why isn't that working? Oh, and that's not working because we need to give it a position as well. Let's say position is equal to bottom. And there we go. Bottom is another way of saying just bottom center. But then we could say bottom dash left. We could say bottom dash right. And we could say top. Basically, we can now throw this wherever we like. Bottom top makes no sense. Let's just say top. And there we go. That's pretty cool. So how about we say bottom dash left for this control? And I'll change this to an icon instead of a label. So how about this? Icon is equal to full screen because I believe we have a full screen icon. There we go. And I'll make it dense. I think that'll look a little bit better. Save that. And one more thing to note is we can even put an offset on here. Offset is equal to, and then I might say 24 by 24. Cool. So you've basically got a little bit of extra control of where this is sitting. All right, I'll get rid of the offset, save it. And now let's actually implement this so when we click on it, it makes our carousel go full screen because we also have that functionality. So if I come up to the carousel and say full screen, it's going to go into full screen mode, but we want to have control over this. Let's say it's equal to a variable called full screen. And then, so now that that's being modeled, I can come down here and basically say const full screen is equal to a reference. and we'll set that to false by default. And then we need to expose it by returning it here, expose it in the template. And there we go. Now we need to make it so that when we click on this button, it toggles that to full screen, that it toggles full screen to true. So let's come down here and say at click, full screen is equal to true, save it. And now when I click on there, we can now toggle between full screen. Or instead of true though, we should say it's equal to the opposite of what full screen currently is. That's how you toggle something. And there you go. How cool is that? A working carousel component, super easy to play around with using Quasar. So I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it for you. This was a lot of fun. So be sure to join me in a future video. So be sure to join me in the next component video where we'll dive into something else. See you there. All right. There we go. So let me just bring it back to me. As you can see, it's a pretty messy process. I am making mistakes all over the place. I'm screwing up. I'm going back. I'm undoing things. This is why you definitely want a cursor that hides. Now, there's different types of doing this. I've done videos as well where I try and do it all in one. And usually when I do videos like that, it's much more sort of it's a little bit more practiced, and I don't pause as much because I know that I've got that extra pressure of, this is going to be the final cut. But for videos that like this, you kind of have the freedom to just chill out, relax, allow yourself to make mistakes, and basically just take full advantage of knowing that you're able to pause and cut things out later on. So even though that looked like a total mess, I encourage you to take a look at this video when it's released and see just how much of a difference you can make. And hopefully this encourages a lot of you watching to do live streaming. Sorry, not live streaming, to do some of your own videos and to know that you can totally screw things up all over the place. I screw up, as you've just seen, all the time. I screw up like crazy, but it's okay as long as you have like this idea in your head of how you can edit it. And even if you don't, you can always go back and record parts of it again. And by the way, most people don't care if a video is super clean. This is just because it's for these are going to be like my core Quasar related videos. And later on, when I've done these, I'm going to be doing paid videos as well. And I think if you're doing paid videos, you need to do recording like I've just showed you here, where everything is kind of um, everything is very much recorded in such a way that it's going to be heavily edited in the future so that the user gets a really nice experience viewing it. And it's just very snappy, and they can pause it all over the place if they want to, or if they're the kind of person that does things really fast, the video that this is going to turn into will be perfect for them because they can learn everything that they need to know about carousel, or at least most of the basics, very quickly with the result of the recording that I've just done there. So yeah, thank you for joining me on this live stream. And if you like this kind of stuff, then check out quasarcast.com/register. This is where I do, this is where this video is going to be posted inside of my component series. So check that out. If you want to see the component series that I started on, let's go to quasarcast.com now. The one that I started on, but I stopped because it was for Quasar version 1 and V2 was coming out. And so I thought, I'm just going to do this again with version 2 and make sure I get it done properly. And at the beginning of version 2's life cycle. But if you come here and just look up the word components, jump into there. Most of the API hasn't changed for version 1 and version 2. And so I've got a lot of videos covering a bunch of different components in this series. In fact, I think I did the carousel component. Where is it? But it was a lot more in depth. In fact, I did 2 carousel videos because it was super in depth. Yeah, this one goes for 20 minutes. And then the API one goes for 10 minutes. So that's like half an hour of videos on the carousel component. There is a lot to this component if you want to dig deeper, but I'm hoping that the one I just recorded then is only going to end up being maybe 8 to 10 minutes. Fingers crossed, because I don't like these introductory component videos to be too long. I felt like I went too deep in these videos. And I do actually plan on selling videos later on down the line where we dive deep into every component. And so, I want to give away free stuff, but I can't spend my life giving away free stuff. I want to be able to, you know, um, have enough space in my life to be able to do more of these videos, and that basically means I need money. And so, I want to have free stuff on the front end where you can learn any component that you want. But if you want to go deeper, you can then sort of watch my deeper videos. So yeah, check out quasarcast.com/register. If you go to /register, it'll take you straight to the register page. And I'm going to ask you a question on the next page, basically saying, um, what do you want me to build? What kind of stuff do you want me to build? And I read all of those because I want to have a good idea of what the community actually wants me to build, so that when I've done my introductory stuff and I'm ready to start building more advanced things, I know what the community's looking for. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this live stream. I certainly enjoyed doing it. It was a little bit scary, not going to lie, but we got through it and it was a lot of fun. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in a future broadcast.